What's going on, GameLeapers? This is Coach Iggs, and in today's upload we're going to be revealing the 12.9 tier list because the changes, well, the alleged changes, but they'll probably 95% go through, got released today on Twitter by the Riot devs, and there are some interesting changes here, so we're going to reveal exactly what these are and what they're going to mean for the meta, and whether these champions affected by the changes are going to be broken or rise tier and everything in between. So make sure you stick around for the whole video for all the information, and if you do want us to continue with these tier lists, make sure you let us know by leaving a like down below, and to master any of the roles in this video, so top, jungle, mid, AD carry, support, make sure you guys also take a bit of time to check out the GameLeap website, which is linked in the description and comment section, because our challenger players and coaches are uploading up to 20 videos a week, and we're talking champion courses, guides, even role courses and guides, high elo VOD analyses, everything you can dream of. So check out those links to get that exclusive access, and let's get into the tier list. Now we're going to start with the top lane 12.9 tier list, and you can see that in the broken tier we have Camille still, Fiora still, Riven still, but we have a new addition, this being Rengar, with Jax moving down to S tier. Reason for this is just because Rengar is too damn broken, more broken than Jax. And even though Jax might do very well into Rengar, it's just overall, we're looking at all the stats here, and Rengar is just too OP, and the nerf to Rengar this patch does not affect top lane, and we'll get into what that is very soon. Now as for the other broken champions, Camille, Fiora, Riven, these three bruisers have been killing it this season, and that's really been the case since 12.3, where Ravenous Hydra got buffed, Black Cleaver, Gordrin, Kadef Stance, Mora Malmortius. These champions, well, Fiora and Riven in particular, have loved these changes, and that's why they have to be in the broken tier. Now as for the champions who are getting buffed and nerfed in 12.9, well, in the top lane there really isn't that many, but there are a couple. So the first of these is Sion, and to all you the Bounce followers, well, it's definitely going to be a worse patch because your zombie structure damage, so the damage you're dealing to structures with your passive, it's going down from 100% to 40%. This means that you're going to get less tower plates, you're going to get less towers as well, and another bad thing for Sion this patch is that Hull Breaker, if you rush the item, is getting nerfed. So in terms of the bonus tower damage, this is only applying to auto attacks or on attack effects. So for Sion, the only way you can damage towers is by auto attacking. But there is a little compensation buff in Hull Breaker because the resistances, they're going from 20 to 60 to 10 to 75. So in the mid to late game, you're going to be tankier, and this just encourages players to build Hull Breaker as a second, third, fourth major item instead of just rushing it. And this of course will affect lots of other champions in the top lane, but for Sion in particular, this will hurt a little bit. Now there are two other champions in the top lane getting affected in 12.9, and the first of these two is Renekton. So your HP and your AD growth, both of these are getting buffed, which is really nice for your scaling, because as Renekton, you don't really scale that well. You're a very good champion in the early to mid game, we all know this, and snowballing is one of your big strengths, but what about if you don't? What about if you just go even in lane? Well, this is where this buff is really going to come in handy. But that's not all, because a W max now is actually going to be buffed, but it is getting nerfed at rank 1. So if you just have 1 point in your W, it's not going to be as good, but they are going to buff your ultimate's damage, and these buffs or changes, I guess, they don't actually really sound that appealing for Renekton, because your W, you're maxing last at the moment, and even if it is buffed at rank 5, do you really want to put points in W? And as far as your ultimate damage goes, I don't really think this is what's holding Renekton back. So like I said, the HP per level, the AD per level going up, these are actually nice, and do give you a little bit of late game power, but overall Renekton is still going to stay in C tier. And after Renekton, we should also consider Olaf, because the main changes, your W is going to grant you a shield, your ultimate is going to extend indefinitely when you're auto attacking or using your reckless swing, so your E. This means for Olaf, during those top lane skirmishes with the enemy top laner, or 2v2s with the enemy jungler and your jungler, or those Rift Herald fights, or even team fights, your Ragnarok is going to be such a powerful cooldown. So those are the top lane champions, just make sure you don't play Ryze. Now let's head to the mid lane, and there are a few changes we have to talk about for 12.9 in the middle of the Rift. Now the first of these champions, she actually resides in the broken tier, and this is Ahri, who's getting a couple of nerfs. So your charms cooldown is going up by 2 seconds, and your ultimate's cooldown is also increasing by 10 seconds at each rank. Now to be honest, these aren't the biggest changes in the world, and everything that's going for Ahri at the moment is still going to go for her. The movement speed with your W, the increased damage on your abilities, being able to use multiple Spirit Rush charges off of takedowns, there is still just too much power. So even if your cooldowns go up just a little bit, is it really going to impact the champion? Most likely not. So this is why Ahri is staying in broken tier. Now alongside her, you can see we have Fizz, Veigar, and Yasuo. These three champions, just like any champion in the broken tier, are performing way too good, and in 12.9 they are not getting hit by any nerfs. Now elsewhere, we can see that Vladimir has moved up to S tier thanks to that armor buff from last patch, and we could also see that Swain has snuck his way into the S tier as well because of the changes that came into Swain, giving him more base damage, and even his movement speed going up makes it really nice for the mid lane. And for the most part, the rest of this tier list is largely staying the same. But in low-key broken, you can see that Xerath has made his way into this, and this is because of the E buff from last patch. So even though your stunge duration on your E only went up by 1/4 of a second, it's actually really important because that is your only form of self-peel. And 1/4 of a second, it doesn't sound like much, but this can be the difference between landing a full combo and killing the enemy champion. This can be the difference between you surviving a gank. This has been huge for Xerath, and personally I really like him into lots of the meta mid laners at the moment because he outranges them. So champions like Ahri and Veigar, for example, who are broken, Xerath does really well against them. Now, just like the top lane guys, there are 2 other champions who are getting changed in the mid lane for 12.9, and one of these is Pyke. So the damage stored in your passive near multiple enemies is increasing. This is going to encourage you to play support Pyke rather than mid lane Pyke because there are 2 champions in the bot lane and only 1 in the mid lane. Now your Q, the mana cost is going up, and your ultimate's cooldown is actually getting reduced. So these are more changes or adjustments than anything, but there is also more. So the gold you get when you execute an enemy champion, you are no longer going to get your cut in addition to kill gold from successful executes. This means you're just getting the kill gold, and you're also not going to get your cut from when allies kill enemy champions within your execute. Now you'll still get your cut, but you're not getting anything extra. That's the point here. So will this kick Pyke out of the mid lane? Honestly, I still think he'll be good, especially in lower elos because people tend to not farm that well, especially after the early laning phase, but it is kind of hard to tell. So I'd love it if there are any Pyke mains out there to let me know in the comments what you think. And that goes for any of you as well. If you play any of these champions we're mentioning, make sure you let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And the last champion who's getting changed in 12.9 guys for the mid lane, this is Taliyah. Now Taliyah is getting some huge changes, but the main ones, your Q is going to be AoE. Your Q also is going to consume the workground to fire one big rock. Your E range is up, and it's also going to stun units that are dashing over your E's terrain. And to compensate all of these buffs, your burst damage is going down. Now to be honest, for Taliyah, the AoE Q sounds good, but I don't think it's going to be that amazing for the mid lane because if your damage is down, then your wave clear is down, your poke is down, your harass is down, and you won't have as many opportunities to just shove the minion waves in the mid lane and then go to roam around the map. This is specifically why I've put Taliyah in C tier, which may sound a little harsh, but once again, if there are any Taliyah mates out there, tell me if I'm being OCE in the comment section. Now let's talk about the last solo role in the game, guys, and talk about the jungle for 12.9. Now there are actually lots of changes here. So first of all, we're going to talk about the champion who's getting buffed in 12.9, this being Hecarim. So your Q's bonus AD ratio is increasing by 5%, and your W's cooldown is down by 4 seconds. This is going to push Hecarim into B tier. Sorry, Donal. But the good news here, guys, is that your bonus AD ratio on your Q getting buffed, this is going to encourage you to go Trinity Force, to go Stridebreaker, to go attack damage items rather than go tank items. Because tank, well, it doesn't really exist anymore in Hecarim. So going attack damage and bruiser and fightery, this is the way to go. So this pushes the champion in the right direction, but he will still be bad. And to be honest, I probably should have even put him in C tier because I don't think it's going to be the biggest change in the world. Now Hecarim is the only jungler getting buffed. So in terms of junglers getting nerfed, there are 3. Now the first of these is Rengar. So the balance team are reverting the W bonus monster damage buff they gave you a couple of patches ago. This is going back to 65 to 130. But it's not the biggest deal in the world, and this is why Rengar is still in broken tier. Is he still going to be able to one-shot champions? Of course he'll be able to. Now next up we have Master Yi, and the attack speed you get from your ultimate, this is going down from 25 to 65% to 25 to 45%. So in the late game, this is going to be much less of a steroid, and you won't be throwing your sword about nearly as much. And this is why Master Yi has gone from S tier to A tier. Now also in A tier, alongside Master Yi, we can see Nidalee, who is the other jungler getting changed, and for Nidalee, your base HP is going down by 30, so from 570 to 540. This is going to mean that your early game, which is so good, like you have no weaknesses, you do everything so well, clearing, ganking, pressuring, skirmishing, it's all too good. So this just means you're going to be more vulnerable, and hopefully there's more counterplay for the enemy jungler. And we've already touched on Olaf and Taliyah. This is why Olaf is going to be in low-key broken because of that Ragnarok buff. The shield as well from his W is also going to help him clear jungle camps, even though his jungle clear is nerfed according to these notes. And Taliyah, put her in C tier because her burst damage is down, so she's going to clear camps slower, even if she has an AoE Q, so you might clear raptors, krugs, and walls quicker, but all you need is level 3. You can get to level 3 just by doing red-blue gromp. So I really don't see how the Taliyah adjustments are going to make her better in the jungle, and I've put her in C tier because I think she's just going to be way too underwhelming given the hype around the changes. And the other champion I just want to touch on here, guys, quickly is Wukong, who is in S tier. And just a bit of advice, if you do pick Wukong, he's so good into attack damage champions. So if the enemy jungler is a Diana, a Fiddlesticks, a Karthus, and at least a Taliyah even, it's just worse to pick Wukong. It's much better to pick him into attack damage champions, so take that into consideration when you pick him in the jungle in 12.9 and still in 12.8. Now let's head to the bot lane, guys, and talk about the AD carries for 12.9. And in broken tier, you guys should be super stoked because there are actually 4 marksmen. broken. There's no Yasuo, there's no Veigar, even though they're in S tier, but they're not in broken. So Lucian, Jhin because of the buffs, Tristana because of the scaling buffs, and Vayne because of lethal tempo. These champions, cream of the crop, pick these in any game, you've got a great chance of winning. But like I said, we still have Veigar and Yasuo in the S tier, and we also have Ziggs, who is still doing very well because for the most part for Ziggs in the bot lane, it is a free lane, especially in lower elos where champions aren't going to press you as much, you can just scale for free. Now Samira is also here because of all the buffs she's had this season, and then we have Twitch as well, kind of for the same reason. And at the moment, the bot lane meta is actually pretty even. Apart from Lucian, I think he's really the standard AD carry, so if he's ever open, guys, just pick him. And I think this would explain that there's only one AD carry getting buffed in 12.9. This being Varus. So the bonus attack speed you get when you kill a minion, or if you kill an enemy champion, this is going up by 5% from minions and going up 10% from enemy champions. And what Ryder also doing is increasing the damage in your W's on hit. So really this is just screaming to me that Ryder really want you guys to play Varus as an AP on hit attack speed champion. So we're talking items like Nash's Tooth, maybe pair this with Mirror Mana, Death Cap, God knows what after that. But let's be real. Do we really think these changes are going to make Varus OP? He's got no escape, making him just free kills for most champions in this game because of their high mobility. You're also playing next to a support, and you need your support with Varus because you don't really have any self-peel. You get called out, you're going to die. And on Varus as well, you're really meant to win lane. That's how I see the champion anyway. You're picking him for the lane priority, and you're also picking him for the team fighting with your chains of corruption. So if your teammates aren't on the same page, and guess what? They're not going to be most of the time. Varus is just a risky AD carry to pick, and you're much better off picking one of the others. Now in low-key broken, we do have Ezreal, we have Kalista, because they got buffed last patch. And these champions, if you pick them in the right situations, and we'll talk about them in tomorrow's low-key broken champions video, they can be very good. So look forward to that, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Now the last role, of course, is the support role, guys, and this is the tier list for 12.9 supports, and in the broken tier, nothing is really changing. Blitzcrank, Janna, Nami, Senna, too good. Now in S tier, even though Renata is getting nerfed, so your armor is going down by 2 and your passive's damage is also down, is it really going to affect this champion because her kit isn't going to change? You still have your amazing ultimate, which works so well with AoE abilities, and in those big team fights, you still have the poke, the shield, so she's still going to be a great support champion. But there are two supports, guys, who are actually getting buffed in 12.9, and one of these is the most popular support in the game, this being Thresh. So your passive ratios per soul you get, this is going from 0.75 to 1, and the W shield, when you throw out your lantern, this is scaling by +2 of how many souls you have rather than +1. So in my head, because of this, I'm legit thinking you guys should go like Nash's Tooth or something, but don't go that, it's probably pretty troll. But that's what these buffs are telling me, but I don't think they're big enough. Thresh at the moment is really struggling. He's very squishy, and in terms of hook champions, he is just getting outclassed by Nautilus, by Pyke, by Blitzcrank. So if you're going to pick him, it's really for a specific purpose. Maybe you counter the enemy support like a Leona, or maybe they have a J4 as well. So you're thinking about the bigger picture, but there are still going to be better supports in 12.9 to pick. And the other support getting buffed, this is Braum. Now your passive, the target cooldown, is going down at later ranks, and your ease damage reduction is actually going up by 5% in the early game to 15% at rank 5, so 5 points in it. Now the passive buff is going to be useful in those late game team fights because you'll be stunning more enemy champions, going to be really good in those team fights, and also your ease damage reduction going up once you have more points in this. This is also going to be very useful in the mid to late game. So these buffs actually look significant, and this is why Braum is going to be in low-key broken. Just make sure, once again, you guys don't pick Ryze. So those were the tier list, guys, for 12.9. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry to all you Ryze mains out there, but I've got to do it. He's so bad. But yes, I will see you actually later today because we're also going to do a top 15 champions video for 12.9. So make sure you stick around for that one, and I will see you in that video. This has been Coach Jigs. Peace.